So my name is Rayn Condron. I am the CEO of a company called Titan. We do private mining pools for large miners. I am the founder of the Lumerin protocol, and we are going to be talking about that in a little bit. I got into Bitcoin mining towards the end of 2012. My friend Kyle came to me and told me about this crazy thing called Bitcoin. I honestly thought he was crazy. I thought we were brute forcing SHA-256 for the Chinese government or something odd. I really had no idea what we were doing. As I dug into the forums more, I started reading more about the technology. So as I started learning more about the technology, I started just realizing this incredible thing that we had in Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining more specifically. I very quickly realized that there were other coins. My buddy told me about this thing called Litecoin. He's like, dude, I built this GPU rig. I mined 5,000 Litecoin yesterday. I was like, okay, how much is it worth? He's like, it's like $3. I was like, okay, we could do that. We started running profitability calculations on all these different coins and started realizing that mining certain coins over a certain period of time actually equated to more Bitcoin, so we were pointing our rigs at a lot of the altcoins. All of our calculations we actually combined and we launched into a site called Coin Wars in early 2013. We quickly realized that a lot of these altcoins did not have mining pools, so we started launching mining pools. That turned into a project called Pool Wars. Towards the end of 2013, I found myself single-handedly running about 80 different mining pools on 13 different bare metal servers, which was a nightmare. So I don't know if anyone has ever done DevOps like that, but it's a headache. Towards the end of 2013, a lot of ASICs were coming out. I quickly found myself going to Home Depot and buying a ton of extension cords to run extension cords all over my house to reach every single circuit in my house. The addition in my house at one point when I went over there was about 135 degrees. I was pretty much boiling the addition in my house. All the windows were open, the fan was going. My neighbors thought I was absolutely insane. But this was the start of Bitcoin mining for me. Now, before I continue my story, I want to take a break and I want to talk to you about a guy named Brad. Okay, so Brad was a senior executive at a company called Exicor. And Brad had done very well for himself. Okay, Exicor was a commodities trading company, and he had done so well, in fact, that Exicor had moved into a brand new office building in an old warehouse right on a waterway overlooking the city. Had absolutely beautiful floor-to-ceiling windows. Brad was doing really, really well. Now, he was having kind of a frustrating week because they were rolling out a new trading platform for their back office. And this morning that the story takes place is particularly aggravating for him. And he gets a call. And his secretary tells him, excuse me, sir, I think you need to come to the lobby. You have a delivery. Well, just sign for it and just be done with it. I'm sorry, sir. I don't think you understand. You need to come to the lobby. At this point, Brad doesn't know what's going on. He slams down the receiver. He marches across his beautifully decorated interior warehouse over to the lobby where he sees the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the waterway, overlooking the city. And at this point, Brad notices two things. The first thing he notices is the large amount of barges sitting in the waterway just outside of his office. That's kind of strange. The second thing is he notices a very oddly dressed man sitting in his lobby. You must be Brad. Yes, I am. How can I help you? Well, I have your 12 tons of coal here for delivery. What? You are Brad, right? Yes. And this is Exicor, Pier 39? Yes. At this moment, Brad realized he had made a terrible, terrible mistake. The previous week, when one of his back office analysts had called him and told him he was having trouble with an order that Brad tried to put through, Brad told him to push it through. He did not realize that order was actually taking delivery of 12 tons of coal, which is an actual physically deliverable commodity. Now, stories like this one are, permeate the different commodities trading worlds as, legend, right? Whether it be a secretary had accidentally taken delivery of truckloads of pork loin or an intern accidentally took delivery of thousands of barrels of oil, whether true or not, they all underscore a common principle, and that is the extreme disconnect between a commodity and the markets that the commodities are traded on. Now, what if we actually had a commodity that could be global, anonymous, instantly deliverable, and anyone could buy it? We actually do commodities called hash power. All around the world, we have grids of electricity, which is actually finite, which is analog. And we are translating that electricity into a commodity called hash power. And we could really call it the world's first super commodity, because hash power is global, anonymous, can be distributed absolutely anywhere. It's almost like a digital form of analog electricity. Now, in 2017, my career progressed past running extension cords all over my house, running 80 different mining pools. I launched a company called Titan. And we quickly realized that we were having a large problem in the mining industry and Bitcoin in general, which is this idea of centralization. Because the reality is no matter where you are in the world, you're always going to see Bitcoin mining rallying around three different things. That's cheap electricity, a favorable government, and stable infrastructure. Anywhere in the world you have these three things, you're going to have a hotbed of mining, right? Favorable government, obviously in 2021, became a very big thing. Stable infrastructure, anyone that's tried to build a mine out in the middle of nowhere knows that. And once again, cheap electricity, that's what we're all looking for. So anywhere in the world you have these three things, you're going to have a lot of mining. So we can't necessarily keep mining distributed. And distributed and decentralized are two very, very different things. So I wrote a paper in 2017 called The Decentralization of Control. This idea that if we can decouple the control of hash power from the creation of hash power, then we can actually keep Bitcoin mining decentralized no matter where in the world the devices are located. And that's what Lumerin ended up becoming. This idea that if we can build a decentralized routing node that sits inside a mining facility and routes the hash power from a source to a destination based on a smart contract marketplace, then we can essentially buy and sell hash power through smart contracts. So I need a representation of hash rate for the next couple slides. I could have used the pound symbol, but I'm going to use dinosaurs instead, just because I can. In this scenario with the Lumerin hash power marketplace, a seller is selling their hash power. You have your little dinosaurs marching from the seller to the buyer, and it's all taking place through a smart contract, which acts as the escrow for the payment. So if we zoom out a little bit, the seller that actually has a Lumerin node running inside their facility, all the miners actually point to the Lumerin node. The Lumerin node forwards the hash power onto the seller's default mining pool. The seller then posts contracts on the marketplace. The buyer anywhere in the world can purchase that contract through the decentralized marketplace, receive the hash power directly streamed to them, socket to socket, peer to peer. The buyer then can forward that hash rate anywhere they want because they're actually taking delivery of a real commodity. They could point that hash power into the ground. They could mine Bitcoin Cash for some reason. They could mine Tiger Coin, or they could mine Bitcoin. So they send their hash power to a pool. The pool then mines Bitcoin. Bitcoin gets paid out to the pool. Pool pays out to the buyer. And the buyer's payment gets streamed through the escrow in the smart contract. It's a fairly simple model. So the cool thing is this marketplace actually launched at the end of September. We've been slowly scaling it up. About a month and a half ago, we launched the web marketplace. So now you can go to lumerin.io. You can actually purchase hash power on your phone, and you can stream the hash power directly to whatever pool you'd like. We actually found that the pool was a sticking point for some new users, so we built a proxy pool on top of Lightning. So now all you have to do is drop in your Lightning address, you buy a hash power contract, and you get an almost instant stream of sats into your wallet. It's actually pretty cool and very fulfilling to watch a hash power turn into a stream of sats almost in real time. Enter Morpheus. So a couple months ago, I was talking to my friend David Johnson, and he has a very cool project called Morpheus, which is a decentralized AI compute system. As I started talking to him more about what they were building and why they were building it, and I started understanding the model that he was proposing, it looked very, very similar to something my team had spent the last 2.5 years building. It was essentially a decentralized routing system where you have a source of AI compute that is selling through a smart contract to a user. So we need another representation. I already used dinosaurs, so we're going to use Neo in the Matrix. So what this looks like now is you have a provider of AI compute that is streaming to a user of AI compute, and it's through a smart contract system. Now, why is this important? Why are we focused on it? Why does it even matter? Well, to give you an illustration of that, I'm going to jump into another story about a guy named John. John was given an incredibly important document, and he was told that he needed to make 200 copies of this document. The document actually hadn't been signed yet. The creator of the document gave it to him basically for safekeeping. He was the printer that was supposed to make copies of it and distribute it. So he did. Now, today, out of those 200 original copies, only 26 actually exist. Okay? It was a very, very important document. It actually didn't get signed until about a month and a half later, after it was given to him. And the reason only 26 of those documents exist today in the world is because the document was actually given to him 250 years ago. And if those 26 documents did not exist today, we would not have collaborative proof of the authenticity of the Declaration of Independence. You see, the only reason why we actually know the Declaration of Independence has not been tampered with or censored or changed is because John Dunlap created 200 copies of the Declaration of Independence when it was handed to him by John Hancock, and he distributed those. So now we have a decentralization of information. And 250 years later, there's only 26 copies of it left. As a system grows in value, it becomes more and more important to have copies of the data. Because over time, organizations, governments, people will seek to censor that data, to change that data, to try to gatekeep that data. So it's so very, very important to have decentralized access to information. This is why Bitcoin is so important that it stay proof of work rather than proof of stake. Proof of stake is simply those who have will have more. Proof of work completely moves the system outside of the digital realm into an actual infrastructure realm, right? We have miners, we have power. It's a completely different industry. If Bitcoin ever went proof of stake, it would be disastrous. It would possibly be the end of Bitcoin, but I don't know that for sure. I can speculate. But it's very important that Bitcoin stay proof of work. Now, why is it so important that we decentralize AI through this project called Morpheus? Once again, AI can be very, very useful, very, very powerful, and a huge source of the world's knowledge and information. That is very powerful, and when you have something that valuable, governments, people, organizations will want to censor that data. If you want proof of that, go to ChatGPT and try to ask it some sensitive questions. It will not give you the information. In fact, I was trying to get carbon emissions data for countries over the last couple of years. It started answering my questions initially, and then eventually I started hitting this censorship wall where it would not give me any carbon emissions data. And I was like, well, what is going on here? Isn't this important information? Isn't there this thing called climate change that is, terrifying all of us, and we are all making massive world decisions around this, and yet this information system will not actually even give me the information to prove it? We're hitting censorship all over in this world. I'm working on Lumerin because the reality is 100 years from now, I'm not even going to be a picture on somebody's wall. And guaranteed, nobody in this room is most likely going to be remembered 100 years from now. Maybe one of my kids' will find a picture of me in a dusty box in the attic somewhere. Maybe my name will be on a patent that someone will look up. Maybe someone will read a paper that I wrote. But the reality is, my legacy in this world, if I can leave one thing, it's going to be a way of getting around censorship. It's going to be a way of making sure that information and truth is propagated. And that's why I'm building Lumerin. This is why I came up with decentralization of control, is because it's important to me. I want my kids to be able to talk to a AI model 50 years from now, and I don't want it to say, oh, go check the local government authority for that truth because I can't tell you. That's not good enough. And that's the legacy I want to leave. If you agree with me, if you believe the same thing that I believe, please check out Lumerin.io. Check out Morpheus at more.org. Please join us on Telegram. Follow me on Twitter. Looking forward to chatting with you guys. Thank you.